Welcome to the Soul of Medicine. All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Soul of Medicine podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kay Corpus. Imagine having access to a therapy that can help your body heal itself at a deep cellular level, reducing inflammation and increasing energy. This isn't science fiction. It's the powerful reality of PEMF therapy. Today on the Soul of Medicine podcast, we're joined by Natalie Addington, a health coach and holistic nutritionist who has seen firsthand the transformative impact of PEMF therapy on her clients' lives. From chronic pain to improved mood, Natalie is at the forefront of harnessing this innovative technology to help people achieve optimal wellness. Get ready to have your mind open to a new frontier in health and healing. Welcome, Natalie.
Good morning. That was amazing. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, thanks. And I just want to say that we were just talking about this. I had a session with this therapy last week and it felt really good. And I could feel, it working on that cellular level, which was really interesting, moving stuff around. So I'm so excited to have you on the podcast because as we had talked during our session, you have just a lot of great outcomes with this therapy.
Not many people have a negative effect, but if they do, it's because it's exercise on the cellular level and not everyone's used to that right away. So you can be a little sore like after a hard workout, but most people.
So, Natalie, can you start by telling us a little bit about your background and tell us what led you to become a health coach and all that good stuff?
I think it started in middle school because I was volunteering at the hospital with my Nana and I would go to transitional care. I loved it there. Everyone was about to go home and see their families or just go back to their house. And we would do nails or talk or do crafts and like blow up balloons. And it was fun. So in high school, I continued to volunteer and went to healthcare information systems. That was exciting because that was when there were paper charts and you were running from the basement of the old hospital to like the ER or wherever they needed the charts. So that was fun. And then college, I looked into PTA, OTA, then I got my CNA and I came back to Owensboro, got an associate's in science. I just couldn't stop learning. I loved it all, like how the body works. Looked into biotechnology for a little bit. That was so fun. The medical micro and genetics, that was cool. Didn't finish any of it. They told me at some point I could get a bachelor's if I finished like 300 and 400 hours, like 15 classes or 15 hours left. Didn't do it. I got married, went up north, and we got on birth control for about a year. And meanwhile, we moved back to Owensboro from Lafayette with my husband and start looking into how to get pregnant about a year into it, year and a half, and it wasn't working. So we looked at labs. Mine were all normal and his swimmers were mostly fine. He had some that didn't have like great tails, but nothing crazy. And in the back burner, I had a friend who tried to get me to work for her for years and pharmacy just didn't sound exciting to me, but this time she had something different. It was a wellness practice where they educate people on how your body wants to heal itself, and I thought, that's fascinating. So a pharmacist getting people off their prescription. So it was amazing. Learned so much, and she was also going to school to become a naturopathic doctor, so I'm learning all of that in the meantime, how vitamins can work for you, and I thought, what could I do to support this practice? And I was already an ophthalmologist assistant previously, so I thought, I want to be a master iridologist. So I did that too, and it was fascinating, but there was still something that was missing for me because I don't like pills and vitamins. I don't think you should be on everything forever. So as a health coach, you teach people what to eat, like what food incorporates, and then how you make those changes to come off of like all the stuff too. So that's where the health coach came in, and that's where I'm at now.
That's an amazing story. So I do find it interesting. And, Rob, he's part of our practice, who's also a pharmacist and works closely with us. And I just think those kinds of the way that they're trained and the way that they're born, I guess, and that's why they go into pharmacy. I think they should be leading, how to prescribe supplements and testing and all of that. They have the right background for that. So that's great. Okay, so how did you first discover PEMF therapy and what sparked your interest in it? And tell us what PEMF stands for.
PEMF is pulsed electromagnetic field therapy. And I found it when I was managing that practice a few years ago, about 3 years ago. And I started 6 or 7 months before the practice opened. So I was managing it, and oh my gosh, it was so much fun. There was construction workers going in, like we watched it be built from the ground up, like they gutted the building, and it was exciting. So every time something would come in, it would be like Christmas. Like, what's this? A detox. Have you ever done one? I looked at that thing and I was like, what is this? This is so silly. I was the naysayer. I hooked it up to a banana because I was like, well, it's organic. Like, well, why it's slurping out? Like, what do you put in it? And it was just salt. Like, I tried the salt. I was like, is there something in it? But when you learn about how it works on a cellular level, it makes sense because we are conductive. You touch an electric fence and you get shocked. But if you hold your friend's hand and touch the electric fence, they get shocked. So that's the same kind of concept for the foot detox and things moving through. It was November, I think, when the pulse machine came in. And the second they turned it on, I could feel it in the room. So that was exciting. Like, what is this energy? So it's cold out in November, and I did it before I ran at Legion Park one day. And I ran an extra mile. I was not tired. Like, what did I do different? It was just the machine. I was shocked. I was upset. I was angry because it was cold out and wanted to go in. I planned it. I was just going to do like 2 miles and I ended up doing 3. It flushes out the lactic acid on the cellular level. So you're not sore, and every cell in your body, there's a ton. So whenever you flush out the toxins, it gives them more room to hold the nutrients. That's what it does. It flushes out inflammation, helps your cells hold a higher charge. And with that, you have more energy, more endurance, less inflammation. So you're happier and you feel great.
That's amazing. So could you talk about some of your outcomes and the types of patients that come to see you? So you said reducing inflammation, decreasing the lactic acid, so that in turn could help somebody be more mobile, for instance, or reducing pain, that kind of thing. Could you tell us kind of what you see in your practice, who you see in your practice, and how it's helped?
All different ages. Headaches, toothaches, inflammation. I'm not a doctor, so I can't diagnose, treat, cure, mitigate any disease, symptom, or ailment and tell you how your body wants to heal itself. And when you get rid of that inflammation for your toothache, there'll be less pain. And it increases athletic performance. Like I said, if I do it before I go run, I'll run an extra mile. So my power lifters, they love it. Decreased fatigue. My Lyme clients love it. They usually have POTS and mast cell activation syndrome. There's a lot of co-infections with that. Fibromyalgia, neuropathy, lipodystrophy. That was my most recent one. She also is a diabetic and there was some nerve issues. Hasn't wiggled her toes in 3 years. 2 sessions and she was wiggling them again. It was so exciting. I thought it was going to take way longer, but everybody is on a different journey. So, like, I'll tell you, my dad, he's not along with the food, but everything else, like clearing out relationships and figuring out like what he wants out of life, he's number one on that. But we didn't take out food right away, like the bad stuff. My favorite thing to do is crowding out. So eat the rainbow and, just incorporate good stuff on your plate. But we didn't even do that for the first year. So the first year was just detoxing and supporting. So the pulse is a detox on a cellular level. And when you detox pancreas and support liver, he lowered his A1C the first year without changing any of his food. So the second year, we've been working on food and diet changes and then sprinkle them in there. He's in his 70s, so he's got that powdered butt syndrome, like you don't want to listen to someone who you powdered their butt growing up. It's got to be gentle, baby steps. But I think family's probably the hardest one. Vertigo, anxiety. There was a girl detoxing, being an alcoholic, and you already know how much serotonin is made in your gut. It flushes that out, and you never know where someone's at, like if they can afford all these supplements. So we talk about manual grounding because that's essentially what this is on the cellular level. It's like grounding on steroids. And we're not doing that anymore. We're not giving ourselves the opportunity to walk around barefoot. We have these rubber shoes in between our feet and the earth. So we're not getting it. But whenever it does the whole body, like I watched her sit up, she's like, where did my anxiety go? And that's a big reason some people drink. You can be addicted to anything. It doesn't have to be a person or a substance. But yeah, that was a big day for her. I love my...
So, Natalie, basically what I hear you saying, so we're not saying, I don't believe anything is like, there's just this one thing that tends to heal you. However, I feel like when there's a saying that your body can heal once we get out of the way. So when there is detoxification, whether it's physical detoxification or emotional detoxification, psychological, all of that stuff, then the body can flow and get back into healing state. So, and given your background also in nutrition and holistic nutrition, that also has to be a part of it, correct? I mean,
absolutely. Mind and body are connected. Like you can't have physical illness without some sort of emotional issue leading to it, in my opinion.
Which is wonderful. And, it's so interesting that when you can target that inflammation, and two, I think as a healer yourself having strong intention for healing, I think, you also can hold space pretty well for that. I mean, I've noticed that just being in your space, you're really positive. You take care of yourself, which I feel like, that's important for a healer. To me, I think that's really important when the practitioner takes care of themselves, is in that mindset of holistic healing, and that like it's like your machine. I find that, it's that kind of resonance that is important also. Do you agree?
100%. Absolutely. The frequency matters, and that was part of the health coaching program that I learned, because they don't let you help other people until you heal yourself. So just like you can only go as far as the person is willing to go in a consult or an appointment, I can only lead them as far as I've gone on my inner work and like reflection, judgment, and the shadow side, or whatever you want to call like your flaws. But yeah, your frequency attracts who you are, not what you want. And I've learned a lot about frequency over the past few years with this machine. It's a frequency machine. So I got my ham radio license so I could learn more about it and get to talk to my dad from my little hill. But not just the people, but the clothes you wear. So everything has a certain frequency, and the human body is usually around 500, but what we wear can diminish that. And polyester, synthetic clothes, that affects it. So I usually try to wear, I haven't bought anything this whole year if it was not either almost 100% cotton or wool or linen, jeans, like natural fibers, because those fake things, they bring you down. And if you're not actively doing something positive, it can really wear on you. Like the Wi-Fi. I read Dr. Mercola's book, EMF, and it was mind-blowing. Like one of the statistics was, do you know how much more EMFs we're experiencing now than our ancestors just 100 years ago? And it was infinity because it's everywhere. The Wi-Fi and your cell phone, just the cell phone itself, like all the electronics, the microwaves. So pulling those things out of your life really helps you just stop buzzing so much to calm down. So it's directly correlated, your health, into how much you're willing to actually slow down and realize like what's going on. Otherwise, it's you just trying to keep up with the buzzy feeling and you're making yourself dizzy and don't take time to reflect or see what.
Natalie, can you relate the energy then of the PMF machine to nature? How does that relate?
Well, you can have it on any pulse per second that you like. You can go low and slow, and I have a few people that like that, and it can be any spectrum. It's not just athletes. Athletes love to go hard as fast as it can, like give me all of it. I'm ready to like go work out. Woo! But I have a lady with Lyme and POTS, and she has a tumor in her ear too, but she loves the low and slow. And then other people, whenever they're working out or about to work out, or they want it to feel kind of like a massage just because the lower pulse per second feels like it's just beating you up, but because you get more of that magnetic field, I like putting it on Schumann's resonance because that's what the earth spins at. It's 7.8 pulse per second, and it's like a hum. You're getting the frequency so quickly, you can take a little bit higher, you can take a little bit more, and it's soothing. It's like I'll usually go to sleep within 2 minutes, maybe 30 seconds, as soon as I lay down, because I know that it's going to be so comfortable. But yeah, it's grounding on the manual level. I've had a nurse practitioner tell me it's kind of like manual Reiki. So it's super relaxing. But yes, I love the Schumann's resonance setting on the pulse machine, but you could have any setting that you want. It's always bio-individual based off of whatever the client wants that day, how they're feeling, and what the body wants.
So is that more figuring out what that is based on how they feel, or is it, if they have a lot of things going on, then you would want to go slower?
It matters where they're at in their spiritual journey a little bit. So some people are so wound up all the time, but they're huge athletes and they can take the Schumann's resonance or the lower pulse per second, but I can't turn the magnification up on them because they would be super sore. And some people that like do Reiki or are super in tune with their body, they can feel it on a very low level. The first time I experienced this was a woman that had just given birth maybe a month or two before, and she felt the machine on like a 13. And it goes to 100. And I was like, really? You already feel that? Wow, what's going on? And so you feel baby kicks and you're like super in tune all the time. You're listening to your body. Someone who knows how to perform Reiki, they're in tune. They know love on a deep level and are listening and paying attention. And then there's the other side of that. People with neuropathy, they don't feel a lot, but we can introduce those nerves talking to each other in a happy, healthy way. A lot of people are like, well, I don't feel anything, but you'll notice it after a few sessions. So someone like that, I might do 3 times a week when we're first starting out. And then once they get to where they can feel what I call like low, which would be 30 magnification, then we would raise it up to what they can tolerate, like 40 or 50. But still, they're going to continue getting those neurotransmitters connecting, whether they feel it or not. And sometimes it's a day or two after. It's not always instant. They'll be walking down the hall and they'll tell me about it later. Like so it doesn't matter how long the injury was, if it was an injury or when the neuropathy developed. I have a girl who, when she was in college 17 years ago, she hurt her foot playing basketball, just hanging out, did not play basketball for the school as a professional athlete. But that was 17 years ago, and she did the pulse therapy just once a week. That was what she had time for, and it was once a week for 3 months. And whenever you're just looking at your fridge and you're like, you give up, but then you see something out of the corner of your eye, so you like, it was that movement that she noticed. I felt my foot again. So it's not just neuropathy, it could be scar tissue. And then I've got athletic trainers that they had a surgery, never had the full range of motion with one of the arms, and it took 2 treatments. I've got my neighbor who's 70 and he does everything. His orchard is huge. He's got hundreds of acres and just walks every morning. I see him but he had one of the first rotator cuff surgeries and 2 treatments, and he was almost all the way up just from his rotator cuff surgery. So everybody's different, and you have to have that connection or relationship with a client. Like, it's different every day. It's a lot. So every interaction is going to be vital individual, but it matters where they're at as far as athletic performance or what their goals are. If you're just trying to walk, it'll probably be low and slow. I had a lady surprise me. She's not even using her cane anymore. And that was only 3 sessions, but she also performs Reiki, so she's more in tune, and she was eating all organic. Like, what you put in your body totally matters. Calories matter. I could put in a plug right now for Nico's because theirs is always fresh, never frozen. It's so good, and you don't feel like crap after. I don't need a nap after Nico's. You could get the same thing from Kroger's. Yeah, it's cheaper, but
So, do you do then more like the bed for people if you feel that they have more systemic things going on, or if there's an injury, for example, on the ankle or on the shoulder, you can be specific. You had sort of those pads, right, that you use. What do you recommend for that?
it depends on their mobility, first of all. Like, if they can't get down in the bed, because I'll take my exam table sometimes. Other times, I can put my bed on their bed. Or because I travel. I don't know if I mentioned that. I travel now. But I can put it in the floor, on the bed, or if they're not able to get up and down, the paddles are perfect. Or wherever you need. They've got Velcro. I can put it on a shoulder. My aunt said that I was allowed to tell you. She had a compound fracture, so she wasn't able to get in the bed just yet. And that's the thing, like, you can do the bed and it'll do full body. You're going to get a better experience if you can do the full bed. But if it's just your Achilles, yes, let's focus on the Achilles and do bed every now and then to try and flush it out, but mostly do the paddles twice a week and the bed once a week just to flush everything all the way. But yeah, she could not get in the floor, so we did the paddles on her back. Sidebar, she had a total knee replacement scheduled, but she missed the appointment because she had just fractured her back. She had more than one compound fracture. So it was at least 4 months ago, 4 or 5. Her knees don't even bother her anymore. She's not going to get her knee replacement. She doesn't need it. It can regrow cartilage and bone, anything. Astronauts use it from outer space to regrow when they come back because the bone density, you know how it bled, all the things. But yeah, she couldn't get in the bed or in the floor, and now that she can, she uses the bed every time because full body is way better. It's great for anxiety, inflammation, healing your gut while you're detoxing. So the paddles are great if it's an acute injury or if that's all you want to work on, but it's always up to the client. We can do both. And I can put the paddles on there and the bed so you get extra magnification in that one spot, but still receive the benefits of the full bed.
That's awesome. So, can you walk us through sort of your process? So, people get in touch with you, you do sessions, so you travel. Yeah. Could you walk us through a typical session? So, people get in touch with you, you either have sessions at a place, right? Or you go to their home. Could you kind of tell us your process? So, walking through somebody who would be new to this and interested in it.
A PEMF session is really easy. You call my phone or get a hold of me through social media, but we talk about everything you're doing. We'll start with what you eat, how many bowel movements you're having a day, because I can do just the liver if it's over here on your hip and you might have a bowel movement. I don't want to surprise anyone, but it's a good detox if you're just doing paddles there. How much sleep you're getting a night. Like, if you usually sleep well, how much water you drink a day, what type of food you eat, and then your athletic day to day. Like, is your walking your no compromise have to walk, or is it lifting heavy? Do you golf? Do you go play disc golf? We have to know everything because that helps me figure out what's going to be the best session for you as far as your comfort level and how you can take it, because it's a hard workout. We start low and slow, and then we work our way up to your workout portion. Now, if it was just an arm or a leg, Achilles, you're going to do like little movements. I might have you like move your arms around, but the workout isn't hard. You're not going to go run a marathon. It's just movement, because that's everybody's goal typically for pain. If it's inflammation, I'll find out where you're at, and then I'll let you just enjoy the last few minutes of the session, and you can typically go to sleep if I stop talking long enough. But I usually talk the whole time just to see where people are at. And then they ask me questions about supplements and things like that. Like, what do you do for this? What do you do for that? So it's a conversation pretty much the whole time.
That's awesome. Well, you want to check in with people and see where they are. So that's really great. So, one thing that popped into my head, it's like, how did we get here? How did we get to these inflammatory places? How did we get to the injuries? How did we get to need the surgery? I mean, I have my own thoughts about that, but I just wanted to kind of see, for you, what do you feel these root causes are? And do you believe mindset and stress are contributors to, these chronic illnesses that we see in people, or even acute things?
100% they're related. I had something down, but I haven't even looked at the notes like once. Nutrition plays a role, yes, but I think it's 80-20. You have to get joy from the things that you're doing and eating and putting in your mouth. Guilt plays a role. So if you're telling yourself, look at you busted a can of biscuits, like look at you eating that cookie again just because a rep brought it to work. But if you just say something nice like, wow, you are a spicy taco today. You deserve this little sweet treat. Go ahead. It's totally different on how you digest it. So self-talk is so important. That's usually the number one thing we end up talking about. And it's usually my favorite, honestly, because if you're sad and down or depressed, like it affects everything that you do. You're not coming from this like love center place. It's either going to be victimhood or just a hard season, and you don't know where to go. Like everything is hard. You can't function like that. And I think there's two different ways to look at it. Either you're in flight or fight and you don't know where to go, or you're fawning is the term that I've heard, and you're just kind of stuck and going through the motions. But if you don't have a good spirituality, which does not just mean religion, it means your life's purpose. That's your spirit and like your soul's purpose, what you want to do. You're going to kind of be searching around. So emotion is huge. It's top of the list for sure.
Actually, I agree with you. I mean, I think it's the number one thing. And we have a society where we don't deal with emotions. We sort of stuff it down. We don't honor it. We don't integrate it. We don't, you know what I mean? So there's that chronicity in there then that activates, the vagus nerve or the HPA axis and all the inflammation, or it just, the vagus nerve starts to lose tone. And so, I mean, it's interesting, even in this day and time, we talk about stress as something out there, but, people are starting to realize that I didn't really get how that impacted or continues to impact my life, and even not having, I mean, it's all the way down to these first chakra sort of issues of safety. Am I creative? Am I, can I take action on things? Do I have self-love? Can I speak my truth? Am I honoring my intuition and then my connection to higher power? And so, there are blocks along that path. And, what I find beautiful about your work too, I mean, supplements can be vibratory, food can be vibratory, your machine is vibratory and energetic. But when there's this intention of like, there's a block in there, and holding somebody in that space of like, well, we can help. That's the way I feel supplements are sometimes. It's not the supplement. It's like that is, it could be the thing to help maybe mobilize and create safety in the body so that the energy can start to flow in a way that it's supposed to, right? So, yeah.
It's still just another band-aid. Like, I think Ryan said it. I'm opening the door for you, and it's your choice if you want to learn from this or move with it. Otherwise, you're going to keep coming back to me the same thing, and we're going to do it over and over. But if you can figure out why you're lacking here or why this is a trouble spot, you can really heal yourself from the inside out just based off of that one emotion or wherever the inflammation is at. Because Chinese medicine teaches us that every organ system holds a different emotion. So I usually ask them the hard questions during that pulse session or health coaching. Like when it's liver, I'm like, are you angry? And they'll like, yeah, all the time. So then we talk about it. It's good. And surprisingly authentic. Like I feel like it's hard for me to open up to just anybody, but I feel like the machine helps you a little bit and they just open. It's a lot. But yeah, if you can get it out, that's number one and put a finger on it. That's number 2 and 3.
That's awesome. I mean, I'll have you back on another podcast to talk about, emotional eating, which I agree with you on that. I mean, I have so many patients. I mean, it is interesting to delve into the relationship of the food because the food is pretty neutral in itself, but it's the way people are relating. So we then villainize gluten and dairy and all of that. Well, it's not, it's almost like a gun. Like the gun just sits there, but what you do with it and how you use it is in. Same thing with alcohol. You could drink with friends and it could produce something like endorphins in your body, but if you're like with the bottle at 5 and like suppressing emotions, it's a totally different situation, right?
Exactly. That's what I found out last year. I was like, man, I just can't drink. I'm not having fun anymore. But the frequency of the people around you and their intentions do not lie. And your body tries to tell you. It's just up to you to listen. Like, is this what's going on? So I stopped drinking for about a year and then I started drinking and I'm like, oh, it's fine. It was just the people I was around.
Yeah. Isn't that so interesting? Yeah. Well, I love that because I think, that's something for people to look closer at and that does start to it becomes the portal in, like Rumi says, the pain is the portal in to something deeper, right? And so we can help people like
That gives me goosebumps.
yeah, I mean I instead of like, oh, let's just like get rid of it and pathologize it, and it is this opportunity at the same time holding an opportunity to ease it, but not let that be just the goal of getting rid of the pain. There's something else underneath that because we talk about chronicity because, yeah, they're going to be back on your table or back in my office for years and years if we don't get to it. And it's hard sometimes to keep peeling those layers of the deep, deep wounds that we have that you mentioned that keep us in fight or flight, right? That it's just, yeah. Yeah, but I think the understanding of it and we know the trajectory and we know the root cause. I mean, I think, that's what I think is really cool about you is that you have that totality and you probably have done your work too. And any of us who have done our work, it's like, this is not freaking rainbows. This is like, and even talking about spirituality, if you choose to do that path, it kind of sucks sometimes or a lot of the time, right? It's hard. So it's not for the faint at heart to go down these journeys, right? And so, but I definitely think it's worth it, in the long run, right?
Oh my gosh. It's like night and day. It's like, wow, that was anxiety that I felt. And now I can listen to my body and know like, I think I'm going to leave. It's JOMO, joy of missing out instead of fear. And
JOMO, love it.
yeah.
That's a nice hashtag. Okay, I love that. Awesome. So thank you so much. So what's been the most rewarding part of this journey as a coach and as somebody who can provide this treatment for people? It sounds, as a practitioner and you see people get better, it's a game changer of like, because sometimes in medicine and clinical work, it conventionally anyway, it's hard I couldn't stay in that system very long. and have like negative things and being surrounded by negativity all the time. It's nice to hear when your patients like feel better and you have these success, even miraculous things that happen, you know? So it reminds me of, I don't know if you've listened to any Abraham Hicks stuff. They do a lot of the law of attraction, but Esther Hicks would say that the reason why, you know, Jesus was this like great healer is because he believed in wellness, not illness. And so the vibration that he held, disease couldn't exist in that aura, right? So that's why there were a lot of spontaneous remissions, you know, that they spoke of. But I thought that was kind of interesting because the medical system conventionally focuses on illness, not wellness. And when we focus on wellness, not illness, that's a whole different paradigm, I feel, for people to get better. You know, that's why they get better, in my opinion. Any thoughts on that?
When you're focusing on the positive, absolutely. So that is my favorite part, not just watching their faces light up, but I had a lady who was doing a cancer detox program, and she was doing food detox combined with the pulse therapy 2 to 3 times a week because it flushes out the chemo because it's toxins and it's just meant to kill everything. So your immune system is down. This flushes that out so you can get back to doing your regular activities. But hers was lung cancer, so we talked about essential oils and breathing eucalyptus and peppermint and stretching. So we would stretch and do, I don't know what their names are, but my favorite was going to a door frame, and I would lift her hands up so she could like almost touch, because she was 5 foot something, maybe like 1 or 2, and I would hold her hands so she could maybe touch the door frame. And then after a couple months, she touched it all by herself. I was like, Terry, how old are you? And she knew where I was going with this. She could tell because I was always positive. And she'd say 72 or 77. I'm like, Terry, did you think that you would grow at your old age? And she's reluctant. No. But like grinning from ear to ear because she could tell she was proud. And just telling people all the time, like, look at you. Look what you just did. Did you think you could do this? You can. Just showing them that their body can heal itself. I think my absolute favorite is my dad, because he lowered his A1C, and I did not expect him to go to the gym this year. Like, that was going to be chapter 14. We're on like 6 or 7, but it just happened. He just kind of stepped into it. I have a gym day where I'm at OAC, and typically on Wednesdays, I'm like, hey, there's this silver sneakers class. Do you want to go? And he jumped. He did it for 3 months, and he didn't miss any of his yoga class, and it's chair yoga. So it's perfect for him to get into it. And I made a little positive post about it because I was so proud about how he'd been consistent. And he starts arguing with me about consistency. I was like, Dad, did you see what I wrote? And he was like, yeah, I don't know if I agree with it. What do you mean? Well, I haven't been in there every day. I'm not consistent. I'm like, you have never worked out my entire life. Hey, you are in the gym and you haven't missed a single one except for a doctor's appointment. That's consistency. So I sent him the message of consistency. I'm like, you're doing great. Like, look at your accomplishments and just know that you can do even more. Like, this is just the second year that we've been working on it. And like, I think just showing people that they can do way more than they think, that's my favorite part, because the body wants to.
Definitely. And that slow, you know, sort of consistent way of you don't notice, because everybody's used to the fast, you know, the quick and dirty. And, you know, people don't really realize how far they've come when they're committed to their lifestyle that way. You know what I mean? And so it's more sustainable. Would you not agree?
Yes, that's a trick. That's the trick, doing it low and slow, making like one change at a time so it's sustainable, not 20 things at once, because then you don't know what actually worked. And that's what my health coach program is. Like, it'll be one thing at a time. You're going to know what the change is, like how it affects you, if we need to switch it, do something else. And then it becomes a habit and you don't even notice it. And I think that's what happened to Dad. Like, it was a habit. And he's like, well, this is just who I am now. I go to this consistently once a week, but that's not enough. Like, you're always your hardest critic. And that's another part of it, getting him to just be grateful where he's at. That's number one. Cute baby.
That's so great. So, yeah, and it's interesting too that people, when they're on this journey, they don't think that they're getting better because actually they're raising the baseline of their goal. You know what I mean? Because they don't realize that I couldn't walk from here to there, but they are. But then they haven't realized that they've moved their goal to like the half marathon, and so they're always kind of in this mode of like, like sort of moving forward all the time. So there's always this big gap, but they never kind of look back on the mountain and see how far they've come. So
Pat yourself on the back, girl. Like, yeah, look at how far you've
yeah, exactly.
That's another favorite part. It's all of it. It's the process and how it's not overnight. And you get to watch the evolution of these people and watch their goals get to be huge. And that's another part we talk about, like doing things that scare you because it's your thought. You wouldn't have thought it if it wasn't meant for you to try that next and go do it. It scares you because it's exciting.
Awesome. Well, you're amazing. So how can people get in touch with you to book a session with you, get on the PEMF machine and be in your presence? How do we get in touch with you?
It's on the socials, Facebook, Natalie Addington, or Instagram, Natalie Add or Nat Add. Oh my gosh. I don't know my name.
It's okay. We can put
Natalie Addington and then our phone number.
we'll put it. Yeah.
You can call the book. With Gauntlet in the link somewhere.
Yep. We can do that.
Thank you so much for having me. This was
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Soul of Medicine podcast, where science meets soul for whole health healing. Are you ready to reclaim your energy, vitality, and soul purpose? Then feel free to head to our website at kcorpusmd.com and schedule an appointment for your root cause review.